Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about the question, is medical coding right for me? Or you, as it would be. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. I've been getting so many questions lately from folks asking me, Blue, I'm a very shy person. Is medical coding right for me? Blue, I'm a very anxious person. I don't like to work around a lot of people. Can I do medical coding? Blue, English is not my first language. Is medical coding right for me? Blue, I don't really like to study. I don't like reading. Should I do medical coding? So I'm going to give you guys all the details about answering this question for yourself. So hopefully the things that I talk about today will give you some thought-provoking thoughts into answering that question for yourself, because the only person who can say yay or nay if this is good for you is you. Everybody has different backgrounds. Everybody has different experiences in life. And everybody's road to becoming a medical coder is different. And sometimes when we are brought here, sometimes by accident, hello, it was an accident that I got into this. But I'll tell you what, it was literally... I really do think it was divine intervention that actually got me to where I am now. And getting into this field has been such an incredible ride thus far, and it just gets better and better every day. And I have always said, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. I've said this since the beginning of my channel, and to me, it's really true. Okay, so let's get into answering this question. I will start off by saying this. It takes many types of people to become medical coders. So there are shy people, there are very outgoing people, there are people from all different walks of life that do this. People who have only a high school diploma or a GED can do this and be very successful at it. People who have college degrees can be equally as successful in doing all of this, right? So it just depends on what you want to do. A lot of people think, well, to make good money, you have to have a college degree. That is not the case when it comes to medical coding, because people who do not have degrees often make just as much as the degree holders doing medical coding. It just depends on what you're doing, where you're at, and how long you've been in the profession, and what kind of specialty are you coding and that kind of thing. What setting are you in? So all of those things play a key factor. But above everything else, it takes a lot of different personalities, because the providers, when you're communicating with them, they tend to mesh well with different types of personalities as well. Sometimes if a provider is very straightforward, they're going to want a person who is equally as straightforward. Sometimes a provider may be shy and can connect with a coder that is shy as well. Believe it or not, I started out very shy, and truth be told, I am still a very shy person. Honestly, when I meet new people, I get very shy. I am not outgoing. But when you put me on my element, when I start talking about the thing that I love, which is medical coding, when I have to do a class and when I have to do those things, then you start to see me come out of my shell. And when you have passion for what you do, you'll be successful. And that is something that I truly do believe. And that was paraphrased from Wolfgang Puck, one of my most favorite chefs in the world. Next to Gordon Ramsay, I will say that. Those two run very close together. Anyway, moving right along. If you are shy and you think, gosh, I can't do this, I can't talk to providers, yes, you can. Blue, I'm an anxious person and I can't do that. I have social phobias and I have troubles and things like that. Okay, I know that there are people who suffer from conditions, and in whatever your conditions are, they can be worked with, right? Obviously, if you're interested in doing this and you go through a program or you do self-study and you get certified, you are still able to do this. Does not matter how you feel, like if you feel anxious or if you're just very shy. These are things that can be worked through when you are in a working environment, right? Or when you're having to communicate with these providers. The thought of communicating with very educated people does intimidate a lot of people. And it can intimidate even the most seasoned coder. I will still get into a room full of providers and I will still feel intimidated depending on who's in the room. It doesn't happen too much too often, but sometimes people's energy, and I'm a very much an energies person where I feel people's energy. And when I do, sometimes it'll throw me off. And so for that reason, sometimes I still feel like, oh, okay, you know, I'm a little nervous here for whatever reason. It just may be just the way that they come off. But then getting to know them, it does make it much more easier. When you start to get more confident in what you do, it will help you to relax, and it will help you to be more confident when you're speaking, which is why I am constantly harping on you guys to continue to study. The more you study and the more you're more confident in the things that you have to say and the way that you have to explain them, the better it's going to be for you, because these providers have to be able to take you seriously. And they're not going to take people seriously who don't know what they're doing or who say, I don't know. Or if they're asked a question like that, you know, they'll say, well, I don't know. You never tell a provider that you don't know. It doesn't matter who the provider is, right? You never tell them that, because you want them to get confidence in you, and they need to be able to trust you. And so in order to be able to do that, then you say things like, I will have to do some research on that and get back to you. Because essentially that's what you're going to do. You never tell them, I don't know. That's just my little tip on that part, right? But sometimes when people think that and some people will say, well, I am an anxious person, and, you know, they start overthinking. And it's literally just overthinking that stops them from being able to do what they need to do. Overthinking is the killer of dreams. I have always said this. And when you're overthinking, it can rob you of your talent. It can rob you of so much in life, because you're sitting there thinking about things that may never ever happen, or they have a very slim to none chance of happening. So my biggest bit of advice is to start working on yourself, because being a medical coder is not just about knowing the codes and knowing the guidelines and knowing the rules. It's about elevating yourself and elevating your communication, whether it is verbal or written, okay? Which brings me to my other thing. Bleu, English is not my first language. Can I do medical coding? This is a very tricky question, because for some, that English is not their first language. Some, it's like their written and their reading is a lot better than their speaking. So you have to sort of start to marry the two. While it may be okay that you can read it and understand and comprehend it, you still have to be able to work on speaking it as well. Because if you're coding something and you need to be able to speak to the provider, you have to be able to communicate with them very clearly. And I've always recommended that if you have a strong accent, to work on your accent. There's plenty of accent coaches all over YouTube. I've also recommended that if you are trying to work on it on your own, get a DVD. Watch the DVD in English, but put the subtitles in your language, so that way you know what they're saying and you can hear it and you can be able to speak it back. And the more you practice it, the better it will be for you. And the more that you won't have to run into the frustration of the provider doesn't understand what the coder is saying, so the provider is not going to listen. Because you have about 2 minutes to keep their attention. And that's actually being generous. If they don't understand you, or if you're coming off the wrong way to them, they will immediately shut down. And I have seen them do it. You have to be really careful. So this is why I say that when you start working on your presentation of yourself and reading others' body language and how they're receiving you, then you'll be able to know, well, this provider is receiving me well, or this provider is not receiving me well. Let me change my approach. So that is all things that we can learn on our own before stepping foot into being a medical coder, right? There's a lot of responsibility to being a medical coder. A lot of what these facilities bring in revenue and what these providers bring in really counts on the medical coder knowing what they're doing. Now, before you think, I've never done medical coding before, how do I get to that point? Well, it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of reading. And it takes a lot of study extra on your own. It's not just about, oh, well, I'm only working from 9 to 5 and that's it. And then I go home and I hang out with my family. Yeah, it's great to hang out with your family. Do that, obviously, but also still make time to study 1 or 2 hours here and there, because that is going to help you in the long run to be more proficient in what you're doing as far as the coding goes. There's a lot of reading in this, and there is no getting around that. I've been asked the question before, is there a lot of reading? That's 90% of what we do in a day as medical coders is read. The other 10% is whatever else we got going on. And for some, it is talking to the providers or answering their questions and things like that. So that is very heavy on what we do is reading. So reading comprehension plays a huge role. You have to be able to have that. You have to be able to understand what you're reading, because medical documentation is completely different. It is not like reading a nonfiction book. It is literally very technical stuff. It is nonfiction, right? But it is very technical. And when it comes to understanding the disease process and this terminology, and does this terminology mean this? Because there's many different synonyms for different conditions. So that is something that you will also have to learn, which is why I always recommend, if you're going to go into a program, make sure that that program is 9, 12, or 18 months minimum. Because if you're going to go through one of these really speedy programs for medical coding thinking, oh yeah, you'll be able to get a new career going after 16 weeks of study. No. Especially if you have no background in medical. I've seen nurses who struggle even with the 16-week programs, because it's still a lot. It's a lot. And then when you have to get out in the real world and you're having to take these preparation assessments, right, when you go and apply at these places, because they will test you, because they have to know what you know in order to say yay or nay, whether you can start or not. That is something that I recommend. Make sure that whatever program you're going through, that they help you as much as they can. And if they don't, that you are ready to do a lot of self-motivation and self-study, because that is part of the game. And so many times people will tell me, well, Bleu, I've been in this program and they don't teach me, and my instructor is just working from the book and they're not really teaching me any critical thinking skills. That's the problem. Not all teachers are created equally, and not all medical coding instructors are created equally. So but if you ask me my advice, the only thing I can tell you guys is to go directly to the associations themselves. Both of them, the American Health Information Management Association and the American Academy of Professional Coders, both have their own online medical coding programs. Both have different ways of approaching, their learning process. So that is something that you have to check out on your own. Please make sure that you are calling the customer service hotline. AAPC, I got to hand it to those AAPC folks. They're constant. Whenever I do show prep and I have to go to AAPC website, it is always popping up. How can we help you? How can we help you? So they're very interactive with the people. If you have AAPC specific questions, please go to the AAPC website. I'm not even certified with AAPC. I get many questions from people. Hey, Bleu, this about AAPC, this about AAPC. I'm not with AAPC. The only thing I can tell you is to go directly to AAPC. I'm certified with AHIMA, the American Health Information Management Association. And so they also have their own program online. And so you have to check it out. And there's differences in the price, but the way that it's broken down with AAPC, they have a separate program for their anatomy, medical terminology, and it's separate from the coding. And they say it is recommended that you take that before you get into the medical coding part. It is imperative that you have anatomy and medical terminology before you start in coding, because if you don't have that and you have no background in medical, you are not going to understand what is happening. You have to know these words, and you have to know the meaning of these words, because trust me, it's not easy. And when you start coming up with words like arthrodesis, arthroplasty, pseudo fusion, and all this stuff like that. Oh yeah. It gets very, very complicated quick. So yes, I do recommend taking that beforehand, especially if you don't have background in medical. If you already have background in medical and you're a nurse and you're trying to make the switch over, that is something that is entirely up to you. Sometimes nurses have found that brushing up on that kind of thing is very helpful for them. If that is what is your case, then by all means, go for it. Another question that I get a lot is can I work from home? All right, so here's the at-home question. If you are wanting to get into this because you want to work from home immediately, COVID has really changed everything. The pandemic has really made it to where people are working from home, and even brand new medical coders are working from home. With this in mind, if you get through a whole program, you pass your certification, and then you're out and you're ready to apply, you are going to notice that there are a lot of job listings that say that you have to have experience 1, 3, 5 years in order to apply. I still say to go ahead and apply anyway. But if you're looking for a remote position, typically it does not happen for brand new medical coders. You have to have 3 to 5 years of experience before you can work at home. However, because of the pandemic, a lot of places where you have to physically go, they've been hiring brand new medical coders, training them at the facility, and then sending them home. Or sometimes they're just hiring them and sending them home with a computer and everything, so that way they can just go ahead and get trained at home, because the industry still needs medical coders. There's still medical coders that are retiring every day, so there's going to have to be people to replace those people that are retiring or getting out of the field or whatever the case may be. So because of that, working from home is a reality for a lot of new medical coders. I will say this: if I had to tell and give advice to somebody brand new, if you're going to be working from home, this is your brand new first time job as a medical coder, you're going to get lost quick. Because yes, book coding is one thing. Test coding is another thing. Real world, oh yeah, is going to come at you fast and furious, because every provider is different. The documentation a lot of times is not the same. Everybody is different in how they document things. So you have to be able to reason and look through and check out everything. So because you have to do that, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. And there's a lot of things to being a new medical coder that it would be helpful if you had veteran coders around you. But because of this, it's a little bit more difficult. So you may have to ask somebody like over a messenger or whatever. This is why I always tell people, learn how to do your research. Being a medical coder means having to look up these things on your own, do a lot of independent study, because it's not just a team sport, it's an individual sport as well. And you want to be able to know that you know how to find your resources. If you have a particular question about a disease process for a certain specialty like gastro, you're going to know what websites to go to. You're going to know to look in your Merck manual for it to explain to you. The Merck manual is great. I do leave the link for the Merck manual that I recommend in the description box below, along with the other Amazon links. Now, the titles are there, so you do not have to click on the links. These are Amazon affiliate links. I get a percentage if you click on it. You do not have to click on it, just so you guys know. But it is there. The title is there. So if you want to check it out somewhere else, put it into eBay or whatever, wherever else you shop, then by all means. But, you know, to me, it's very helpful to have the book. A lot of people are asking about PDFs. I don't know anything about PDFs because I don't really try to rely so much on the computer. I am very much a book lover. I love books. And if I had my way, I would have all the books, right? But I love like actual books, because actual books Don't stall when you're trying to look up things, right? Like on a website. So I try to keep my mind on that, right? On looking up stuff in the book. So with that said, know where to find your resources. That will also help you, because having that knowledge is going to mean power. Is going to mean that you're going to be able to successfully be able to look up these things and really understand what is happening. But like I said, find a mentor if you can, and somebody that you can reach out to if you have questions. Don't try to run back and forth all the time to the coders, because if they think that you're not looking stuff up, they are less likely to help you. But if they know that you're trying hard to understand this on your own, you just need somebody to explain it to you really quickly, there's a difference there. So that's the thing. You have to be willing to say, I'm not going to understand everything 100% of the time, but that's okay. And I'm going to keep working on this until, I finally get it. And to close this out, a lot of people are asking too, my age. Blue, I'm older. I'm in my late 40s. I'm in my late 50s. I'm in my 60s. Can I still do this? Yes, you can. There is no limit to when you can start this. If it had been me, and if I would have known about this out of high school, I would have done this right out of high school. But I did know a lady, and she was age 61 when I was in school, and she got her medical coding certification at age 61. She's still a medical coder today. I have been a medical coder for over 10 years. She is now into her 70s. I do have one viewer who is in his 70s who is currently studying. So again, it's possible at any age. It is entirely up to you. Whatever you wanted to do for your life is up to you. And people always ask me about money. It is a firm and steadfast rule on my channel that I do not discuss money, because it's different everywhere you go. Everywhere in the US is different. The amount of salary, and also where you start at. Is it a public hospital, a private hospital, government hospital? Every single one of these places starts their coders at a different rate. And sometimes people get upset because I won't talk about it. But to me, you can't look at this field and want to get into it strictly for the money. There's people that are like that. And what happens is they're just so concerned about the money that that everything else sort of falls to the side. And hey, how much money am I going to get? It's not about that. The money is great. The money's there. But your first concern should be learning everything that you've got to learn, because we have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. And I will always say that because that is one of my favorite sayings. And it's true. We have to understand this stuff, and we have to be able to read and comprehend and do all of this. So don't let this scare you. Just let it be known that this is what is going to prepare you if you choose to go down this path. Medical coding is a wonderful field. It has fulfilled me intellectually for years. I have a passion for it, which is why I do my channel, which is why I try to spread the word and the truth. And all the pretty things that the schools tell you, oh yeah, about this and about that, I'm here to tell you the truth, not to discourage you, but to prepare you. So many people have said, wow, if I would have known this. Yeah. So that's my message for today. But I hope that if you are considering this field of medical coding, medical billing and coding, that you do your research. Please continue to do your research. I have so many videos about how to get started. I'll probably leave some in the description box, so that way you guys can check it out. But please check out those videos. Check out my Q&A Tuesday playlist. It's got random questions from all of my viewers. I do that every week, and it always premieres at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. But thank you so much for joining me. If you're here all the way to the end, thank you again, and I will see y'all on the next video. So if you're a medical coder, a medical coding student, somebody curious about the fascinating world of medical coding, a provider or a nurse, I invite you to like and subscribe and follow me on my journey in medical coding. I will see y'all next time. Bye.